Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rahjes. This is a special edition. We're going to focus a lot on the coronavirus and COVID-19, what we know at this time. Our special guest is 1st District Congressman Dr. Rahjes Marshall. Doc, we're going to talk about a lot in the show today, but first, you've kind of been on the front line of this. What assurances can you give as we're moving forward?
Well, certainly, Ken, this is a time that each community can make a difference, that we're in this acceleration phase of this pandemic, and each community needs to use some common practices. So we can make a big difference right now. Every virus we prevent today is going to decrease the number of viruses in the future, and it's going to save Kansans' lives. So this is the time for us to use a little common sense, a little Kansas common sense. We're short of that in Washington, D.C. If you're sick, stay home. If you're over the age of 60, if you have some type of a medical condition, please stay home. And then the young, healthy adults and children, they're super viral sponsors. So they're spreading that virus everywhere. We hope that they'll limit some of their social contacts as well.
We'll have more from Dr. Marshall in just a little bit, but also coming up, we'll have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission and the Kansas Department of Agriculture, our weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association, some market activity with Paragon Ag Advisors. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
Welcome back. Our special guest is 1st District Congressman for Kansas, Dr. Rahjes Marshall. We're spending a lot of time in this week's program talking about the coronavirus, COVID-19. And Doc, I think that's what a lot of folks, we're getting a lot of information. Many of us as lay people, are we getting too much information?
Absolutely. The media is blowing it out of proportion. But that being said, it's here in Kansas now. We have 18 confirmed viruses. We have to assume it's in our communities. But just want to reassure people that if you're sick, don't run into your doctor's office. Give them a call. Let them know if you've got a fever, you got a cough. We need to kind of do our best to quarantine it right now. Most people will do really well with it. They may not even know they have a cold, and that's part of the problem. But if you're over the age of 60, if you have a medical condition and you start feeling sick, running a fever, especially shortness of breath, please let your doc know.
The CDC has done a pretty good job of trying to disseminate information. I know many of us maybe overreacted when one of our neighbors or colleagues sneezed. Yeah. Well, it looks like sneezing isn't necessarily one of those things, but I guess probably one of the biggest misinformation, kind of the difference between what we typically would have cold and flu season and this coronavirus.
Yeah, I think the big difference is this particular virus spreads more easily than the common flu does. So it's very viral. And then also, for certain groups, it has a higher mortality rate as well. And that being said, putting it all in perspective, 20,000 Americans have died from the seasonal flu already. During the swine flu outbreak, the H1N1, we had some 12,000 Americans die as well. I'm not sure why the media has grabbed onto this one and said, oh my gosh, this is even more horrible, but we're going to respect it and do everything we can. I think President Trump has done everything possible to try to prevent and minimize this virus, but it's here in Kansas, and now it's up to our communities to try to contain it as best possible.
Okay, let's maybe pivot just a little bit in our remaining time with you, and we'll do another segment as well, but let's talk about, how this has affected agriculture, the commodity markets, other investments, the oil market,
right.
Which really could have a long-term effect on this great bull run we had, and there's a lot of uncertainty not only in farm country but just throughout Kansas.
Yeah, what I'm trying to communicate to the White House and to Secretary Perdue, and of course the Secretary knows this already, that we were getting creamed back in January. As this virus was making its way past, through China and Japan, our exports started going down. So we've been feeling the effect even before the airplane started feeling this as well. We were expecting the Japanese trade agreement to be coming online, increase exports in the beef market. We were expecting China to be coming on for more beef and pet food as well, maybe a few other products, ethanol. So this is really hurting agriculture with China basically shut down for 2 months.
One of the things I'm sure you're discussing as a member of the Ag Committee, the MFP3, is that
Right.
is that part of the discussion?
Well, we literally just got off the phone before we got here with Chairman Conaway from Texas, a good friend of Kansas. He's been here with me several times, had a great time at our state fair. So it's on the table. I didn't think it was going to be, but now it's much more complicated than that. And what I specifically spoke to the chairman about today is just about the problems that cattle guys are having. They've got no relief so far, and they're getting a double dose right now as well. So we're trying to look into some things with the Secretary of Agriculture that can help the cattle guys along with the MFP payments. So we'll see. No promises.
Congressman Roger Marshall, our special guest on this special edition. So stay with us. We're going to talk more about what's going on in D.C., and we'll do that in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
And welcome back. Our special guest is Kansas 1st District Congressman Dr. Roger Marshall. He is out in the state. This was a normal time that they should be in their districts, and he is, and crisscrossing the state as well. Let's now focus in on other things in D.C. Another developing story is the possibility of how to get this economy going, and there's a lot of different things, and one of those could be kind of direct payments to Americans.
Right. And Ken, I got to put my doctor hat on and say, more important than any legislation we can write in Washington is containing the virus. I know I sound like a broken record, but the best thing I can do for this economy is keeping everybody working. So we already spent $8 billion on healthcare products. We got to making sure we had plenty of testing, more respirators, all those types of things. And then we just did another large packages designed for small businesses and those everyday working folks, those hourly employed wage earners, that we're going to give them 2 weeks of paid time off, 2 weeks of extra leave if they need it, as well as extended unemployment insurance, and finally more money for SNAP, for WIC programs, and for the food banks as well. So that's all been taken care of, assuming the Senate does their job here any hour now. And now we're looking toward the future. What we're looking at is a package. What can we do long term as well? There's some talk about some direct payments to people, but probably more importantly is some type of a tax deferment, giving everybody a 2 or 3 months break on their taxes and getting low interest, maybe no interest loans to small businesses. And of course, agriculture. We're all small business folks in agriculture.
Do you have some concern that the Fed acted so early in basically getting the borrowing rate to zero?
Wow. You know, I think I'm just a simple Kansas farm kid, but I thought they went up too quickly. They went down too quickly as well. And I think the markets, it causes everyone to go in a panic. They didn't ask my opinion. I know they were feeling a lot of pressure. I would have preferred little incremental bites in either direction.
The president, again, as we've speaking, this thing is a continuing process that is moving. But the president's basically shut off travel to Canada and Mexico. But USMCA is so close to getting implemented now, which could be a bright spot once we're over the hump, in a sense, flattens.
Absolutely. And what the president's goal is to stop human people coming back and forth, but not impact trade. I know it's going to be hard, but he's doing everything possible to keep the trade open. Very proud of the USMC trade agreement. I think it'll give future generations of farmers certainty with our best customers.
Now, as we've seen with this kind of mad rush of not only supply chain, but some of the basic staples, if you will, they ran out too quickly. Will we move down the road to where something like this won't happen again? We won't have so much panic buying?
I sure hope so. And I've been talking with the president for 3 years about this. As a physician practicing myself, I saw shortages of medical supplies 5 and 6 years ago. You've seen what China does to cotton, to sorghum. They buy it all up and then they undercut the market. You know the game here. So the same thing is happened. This is chapter 12 of the same book. The president doing everything he can to bring more manufacturing back home to the United States.
All right. Dr. Roger Marshall has joined us, 1st District Congressman for the state of Kansas, with our special edition of our program. Stay with us. More in just a moment.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com and agview.net, serving the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt with reliable and relevant agriculture information. agview.net.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families and rural Kansas for more than 100 years, and we're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau health plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Erika Poppelreiter here with Dr. Cassie Jones, who is an associate professor at Kansas State University in the Animal Sciences and Industry Department. And so we've been talking a little bit about all the discussion that's going on regarding coronavirus and seeing some of that overlap discussion in regard to how we've also had this in animals. But it is indeed two different things, and we probably need to differentiate between those two different species. So really, when we think about the cattle industry and other areas, really, what are those differences?
Yeah, what we see currently in the United States and in other areas of the globe is the coronavirus that's starting to circulate among the human population is COVID-19. And it really evolved from bats, from a bat host, and eventually into humans just a few weeks ago. So that's very different than the type of coronavirus that maybe my husband will vaccinate our calves against, bovine coronavirus, or other coronaviruses that we have in domesticated animals. They're sisters, and so it's kind of like they're in the same family of viruses, but they're not exactly the same. And so what that means is that while humans have had coronaviruses, or there's been coronaviruses in the human population in the past, it hasn't been this specific one. And so that means we have no immunity built up to this type of coronavirus, and now we have a naive human population.
Well, and we've seen some fairly contagious diseases, especially in the swine industry, that we could sort of compare how fast coronavirus is spreading.
Yeah, perhaps one of the best examples we have to what's going on currently in the human population is the coronavirus that was spread through the swine population in 2013 and 2014 in the U.S. And that was porcine epidemic diarrhea virus, or PEDV. At that time, we had a number of countries that were some of our export and trading partners that had PEDV circulating across their country. However, in the United States, we had never had an identified case. That changed in 2013 when it was introduced into the U.S. for the first time. Because we had a naive pig herd that had no immunity built up to that coronavirus, it spread very quickly, and it led to about $1 billion in economic losses to pork producers, and ultimately 3.2% total mortality to the U.S. pork sector over time.
So can we take a few lessons from the animal industry and apply those maybe to what we're doing? Are we seeing some similarities?
Sure, and whenever we're looking at a novel virus or a novel pathogen coming into a population, regardless of the situation or the species, the first thing we do is stop movement. And we do that whether it's a bacterial outbreak in cattle or whether it is a fungal outbreak in crops. If we identify that there's a problem going on, the first thing that we do is stop movement. And that stop movement allows us to identify the situation, where are the problems, and prioritize what our next steps will be. That same stop movement, not only does it limit kind of nose-to-nose or interaction and transmission of disease, it also is being done now in the human population. And so while we think that maybe it's a bit of an overreaction to cancel the NCAA tournaments or close schools and universities, it's a pretty straightforward approach to disease management that we practice all the time in animal livestock production, where if we have a disease outbreak, the first thing that we do is stop movement and we close borders.
That's some great background. Well, again, we're here with Dr. Cassie Jones, who's an associate professor at Kansas State University in the Animal Sciences and Industry Department. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Commodity Classic in San Antonio was a fruitful week for Kansas soybean farmers. Charles Atkinson from Great Bend, Kansas serves as the Kansas representative to the American Soybean Association as a director and has been leading the committee to celebrate ASA's 100th year, or their first soy century. He served as host for the ASA banquet at Commodity Classic. 24 of the former ASA presidents were in attendance and recognized throughout the week, including Charles Hammond of Valley Falls, who was the earliest president in attendance. He had the opportunity to speak on stage and noted that the most notable challenge during his service as an ASA director during the 80s was trade, specifically the Russian trade embargo. Jeremy Olson of Everest was recognized for his participation in the Corteva Young Leader program. As his next step of leadership, he will serve on the KSA Board of Directors. Nicole and Randy Small of Neodesha were named the Midwest Conservation Legacy Award winners for their conservation efforts and sustainability efforts on their farm. In addition to the banquet excitement, directors attended numerous policy meetings to set the policies for ASA for 2020, and commissioners attended various meetings that the commission is invested in on the national level. All attended a variety of educational workshops and informative sessions.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, The soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Earlier this month, the Division of Water Resources here at the Kansas Department of Agriculture recognized Flood Safety Awareness Week, which reminded us all about the importance of preparing for and understanding flooding in Kansas, and gave us an opportunity to encourage all citizens to better prepare their homes, businesses, and communities for the upcoming flood season. Floods are a threat throughout the state, and they can happen anytime, anywhere, and without warning. Last spring and summer saw severe flooding in Kansas, and this spring will bring seasonal rainfall, which can produce the potential for more flooding. When floods occur, you need to know your risk, take action, and be a force of nature. First, know your risk before a flood. Be aware of the potential flooding risks for your area. Second, take action before and during a flood. Prepare an emergency kit and monitor your local radio or TV for information. Be aware that flash flooding can occur, and don't drive into flooded areas. Remember, turn around, don't drown. Finally, be a force of nature. Help your community by sharing with your friends and neighbors how you have prepared for flooding, and encourage others to be aware of flooding dangers as well. Flooding is the most common natural disaster in America and causes an average of $80 billion a year in damage. Our floodplain management team uses advanced digital data to map flood hazard areas as accurately as possible, and we update those floodplain maps periodically to keep pace with new technology and changing communities. We have many useful resources on our website, including the Current Effective Floodplain Map Viewer, where you can check the flood risk zone of any property, or the Floodplain Current, a story map with information on the floodplain mapping process. Find all of that and more at agriculture.ks.gov/floodplain.
Kansans have a new choice for Medicare supplement insurance plans. With Medicare supplement insurance plans from Kansas Farm Bureau, you have access to 4 levels of coverage, affordable rates, and service from an organization that's served Kansans for more than 100 years. For more information on Kansas Farm Bureau Medicare supplement plans, including rates and to apply, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Given recent dry and warm conditions, prescribed fire activity in the Flint Hills and throughout the Plains region has begun, with ranchers and landowners using the practice to improve grazing distribution and decrease undesirable vegetation. In order to balance the use of prescribed fire with the need for clean air in downwind communities, those planning to burn should consider the smoke management plan. Through its voluntary approach, the plan leaves flexibility in the hands of the land manager, but puts the responsibility on him or her to make wise decisions. Resources available at www.ksfire.org will help ranchers prevent problematic smoke events in highly populated areas by giving them access to powerful online tools. One map shows the potential smoke impact of burning in a specific area on urban air quality. A smoke modeling tool allows someone to see where smoke will go from a fire in a specific location. Last year, more than 2.6 million acres were burned in 17 Kansas counties, making up the Kansas Flint Hills, up from just over 1 million acres in 2018. Drought conditions and less than ideal weather in 2018 led to the fewest number of Flint Hills acres burned since 2013.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families in rural Kansas for more than 100 years. We're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau Health Plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
Good morning. I'm Jacob Herzog with Paragon Ag. The beginning of this year shaped up to have a lot of potentially positive headlines and felt like there were many reasons to rally. Now, we all know this is a rapidly changing environment, and it can feel like the market just has to rally for A, B, or C, only to make an about face, and then it can feel like there's no way we can rally until we get through X, Y, and Z. Typically, the next big thing we're talking about is something we couldn't or didn't even see weeks or months ago. So let's address the elephant in the room that we're all thinking about, the coronavirus. In this environment, it's not about trying to speculate on price direction, how much the market can either fall or rally from where we are right here. We all know that nobody knows what's going to happen, but at the same time are attracted to those who sound like they know what's going to happen. As far as I'm concerned, we can flip a coin. We can't let the abundance of headlines, whether the market is at its highs or at its hopeful lows, we can't let ourselves be paralyzed from the decision-making process, because whatever we may think, the market never has to comply. There are tools at our disposal to give us the flexibility in our decisions, whether it's to limit the downside or give potential upside. We don't know what's in store for these next coming weeks or months, but that doesn't mean we can't do anything about it. Give us a call here at Paragon Ag Advisors, 888-452-8751. I'm Jacob Herzog, and please stay safe out there.
Well, that's our show this week. Hope you've enjoyed our the special presentation. At least got some more insight of what's going on from somebody really in the front lines here in D.C., Dr. Rahjes Marshall. Thanks for being here. As we do wrap this up, folks can get more information, probably your website, some other places that they can kind of keep up to date of what's going on.
Exactly, Ken. If you'll just Google Congressman Dr. Rahjes Marshall, you can go to our website, go to our Facebook, sign up for our newsletter. Every week we try to send out a very Kansas-centric newsletter of what's going on in D.C., how it will impact everyday Kansans.
All right, Dr. Rahjes Marshall, our special guest. We also thank Erika for her part in talking about the impact it has on animal agriculture as well. Stay social with us online, KansasAgReport.net, or on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Ken Rahjes. We'll see you next week.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.